Thank you for taking the time at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. I know a lot of people have dinner at this time, so I really appreciate your attendance and coming out to hear about Micronaut today. Anybody already familiar with Micronaut? Show of hands. Okay, wow, so a lot of this is new. You haven't been able to see Graham Rocher talk at all so far? Okay. So this is, kind of a getting started type of talk, and hopefully this will inspire you to go out and, work with Micronaut. It's pretty easy to use. So a little bit about me. I work for ExxonMobil Research and Engineering in beautiful Clinton, New Jersey, western part of the state, right near the Delaware River. I've been with the company almost 30 years now. At the end of the year, 30 years proper. And I've had a variety of assignments over the years, IT, lab work, those kinds of things. So for the past 3.5 years, I've been writing for InfoQ. And, I've gotten to know a lot of the Java luminaries that I finally got to meet here at the conference, and I've interviewed them, done Q&A, and on various topics. I primarily write on the Java, for the Java queue on InfoQ itself. I'm on the board of directors of a small computing organization based in New Jersey, known as the Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey. Been around since 1975, so just a few short years. We're still hanging in there, despite computer clubs starting to die off. And we're trying to do the best we can to maintain some kind of membership and provide quality education. It's a nonprofit organization for computer education. So the club sponsors a number of interest groups, and one of them being the ACG&J Java Users Group, which I founded back in 2001, and it's still alive and kicking today. So look forward to doing that as long as I stay in New Jersey, which at some point could change. So enough about me. Let's talk about what we want to accomplish tonight here. Talk about what Micronaut is, some of the features, maybe why you'd want to use Micronaut. It's a polyglot. It supports, it's polyglot application, so it supports a few JVM languages. How to get started and a live demo. That sound like a plan? All right. I know everybody's tired. I get that. All right. Micronaut is a full-featured, full-stack, JVM-based, lightweight application framework for creating microservices, cloud-native, serviceless applications. And you can write these things in Java, Groovy, and in Kotlin. I asked Graham, I interviewed him for a couple of news pieces with Micronaut, and I asked about Scala. And I believe, he said at the time, this is going back a while, that they're thinking about that kind of support, since it obviously is a JVM language. It was developed actually by Graham, and he works for OCI. And it was first introduced a 1.5 years ago at the Greach conference. I believe that's in Spain, if I'm not mistaken. And this was designed up from the ground up, designed from scratch. And the latest version, according to the website, is 1.2.2. Okay. There are a number of, I saw here, projects or modules that you can incorporate into your applications, and you can see them listed right there for AWS, Google Cloud Platform, messaging with RabbitMQ. There's a special test add-on. Micronaut for Spring, I studied a little bit, did a news item on that, got to play with that a little bit. And Micronaut Security. I'm sure there's others here that aren't on this list, but you can find out more on the website itself. So this is based on ahead-of-time compilation, and there is no reflection in this, in Micronaut itself. Okay, Micronaut, reflection, everything's initialized on first access, so all the fields and any kind of data are there, and they stay, so there's a lot of memory that is used up, and it can degrade your performance. And that is the main reason why they decided to not use reflection in this. Okay, the features. It has an HTTP server, fully reactive. It is based on Netty. Everybody familiar with Netty? Okay, yeah, that's been around for a while, right? It's support for Reactor and RxJava. It has a number of configuration items on there for various databases, and there's a whole list on some of the ones that they support. There's a client side, of course, that's declarative, reactive. It's done at compile time. Has an automatic service discovery. As you'll see in the demo app, we're using console. All you have to do is actually, in your application.yaml file, is specify console in there, and it automatically discovers it. And an automatic load balancing as well, depending on how big your app is. Again, there's support for Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, but there are a couple others there. There's GraalVM. Anybody familiar with Graal? And it's been quite a bit here, right, on that conference. And GraphQL, gRPC, and Swagger. Okay. Service patterns, service discovery, that's console, of course. Distributed tracing and circuit breaker. So you have a lot of those patterns to use in your application. Okay. So why Micronaut? And as I said, let's travel back in time to 2008. And a lot of this, I watched a video a while back of, I think it was Graham's, his presentation introducing Micronaut. So he went about, why they did Micronaut. And these are the things that he said. So this is actually from the video. I should credit that on the slides. But at the time, in 2008, Grails 1.0 was released. Now, Graham Rocher actually created Grails as well back in the day. Anybody use Grails still? Right. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I've gotten to like it, using the groovy language, and you can put your Java code in there. Applications back then were monoliths. I don't think microservices was a thing back then. I think you had SOA, but and then you didn't have Angular, React, Docker, or microservices, all those kinds of technologies 11 years ago. There was an attempt to fit monolith-focused framework into microservices environment, but obviously that really didn't work too well. Spring and Grails weren't designed for the microenvironment. And this is a quote from Graham. I can let you read that instead of me having to read that. But this is actually from a Q&A I did with Graham on one of my news pieces, I think the original one. And he says that they think Micronaut is the basis framework for the future. And he mentions here, abstract trees, transformations, ahead of time compilation. And it says here, Micronaut is blazing fast startup, low memory consumption, and compatible with GraalVM, native image. So. Questions so far? Okay. I tend to speak fast sometimes, so I just want to calm myself down a little bit. Okay. So the languages that are supported, I mentioned that in one of the slides earlier. Okay, you got Java, Groovy, and Kotlin. Okay, the two build tools here are Gradle and Maven, obvious choices. I don't know if anybody's still using Ant these days. I still have some projects that have Ant builds in them, but I haven't touched them in so long. But those are the two build tools that are supported. And we can talk about how you can get started with that. Best way to get started is to install Micronaut with SDK. And it's SDK install Micronaut. You can get the latest version by SDK upgrade Micronaut. You can see what version you're actually using. Is anybody using SDK, man? Yeah, great tool. How about Homebrew? A couple, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a great way to install Micronaut and get going. Can you install it via Homebrew? I'm sorry? Can you install it via Homebrew? Can I install?
Can you install it via home?
I'm not sure if that's supported. Yeah, I think so I'm not sure if the two of them support the same installs. Yeah, I'd have to look into that. So. All right, so getting started. So once you do that, the command is mn for Micronaut. And if you're familiar with Grails, this will be very familiar to you as well, because it's basically the same kind of command line interface as with Grails. It's kind of hard to see, but the command over there you see is mn-h, and this gives you what you see on the rest of the screen there, the various commands that you can use. We see create app, that's a Grails command right there, and those kinds of things. So these are what you'd use to get started. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was similar to Grails. So there's some basic profiles you can use: create app, create controller, create client. All right, and I think a lot of these interact with, are the same with Grails. And so you can do this. By default, if you don't supply a language, it'll default to Java. So in that first command, you see mn create app, and you give it a package name, and that'll create an application with Java in it. And then if you want Groovy, then you just use the flag over there, -- lang, and supply Groovy, and the same with Kotlin. Same thing with your default, your build tools. By default, it's Gradle. And if you want to use Maven, you use the flag -- build, and supply the Maven name. So pretty straightforward. Okay. When you do mn create app, you get all this in this tree right here. So I supplied org.redlick. I thought there was something else in there, but I thought there was a demo or something like that. Maybe I did something different and I forgot to put that in there. But in any event, under source main Java, there's application.java. It's a very simple application. To get started, it'll actually run the server for you. You have some configuration, and you even have, you can put a test, but it builds a directory, but you have to add the test yourself. And I did it with Gradle, so it adds the build.gradle and the wrapper directories for you. Okay. Yes, the YAML file here contains this. This is just a generated one, which of course you can add some configuration on your own, and the name is demo. I took it from demo. That's where it came from. Okay. There is another YAML file here, micronaut-cli.yaml. And you notice here it says it's a profile as service, and that's by default. You can define other ones. And there's default package. And it even, notice here, test framework is JUnit. It'll do the other testing frameworks for Kotlin and for Groovy as well. So depending on how you generate your initial application. So the application.java file looks like this. Puts in your package. It imports the Micronaut class. And if you're familiar with Spring Boot, you'll notice it looks exactly the same, except it's micronaut.run instead of springboot.run. Okay. And of course, the way you would, for each of the build tools, this is how you would execute all that and get them going. Okay. And if you do a local host, you get to, there was nothing really there to, to output, but that's what you get. You have something going. So now it's upon you to add some stuff. Now you can create a controller. So you can do that. You can add to it. It'll create a hello controller or whatever name you'd like to give it. And you'll notice that it changes. It adds the hello controller.java file. And there's your test right there, hello controller test.java. Okay. And the generated the generated output for that is basically there, just gives you an endpoint of /hello, and it just, you can put whatever you'd like, but the generated one just gives you the OK status. Okay. Okay. So we have about a half hour to go through the whole demo. All right. There was an InfoCube two-part series, technical article written by Sergio del Amo Caballero from OCI. It was quite useful. So I had a chance to study this, and I have it here for you as well. So we'll go through that. All right, so it's going to use console already to do the service discovery. There are 3 microservices here, all in the 3 languages that are supported. There's the books microservice, the inventory microservice in Kotlin, and the gateway microservice in Java. Okay. And it's kind of hard to see, but this is the interaction with, between all the services right here. And this is, from the article itself. Okay. The way this got built, all right, the Groovy microservices basically is using the create app command, all right, the package name, and then --lang Groovy. Okay, and these are straightforward, Kotlin for the inventory, and the gateway is in Java. Pretty simple. Questions? Okay. Here's where I get to sit down. All right. So I already have console up and running. Basically, what you do is here is using Docker. You can use that command right there. All right. So pretty easy. And then the URL to display that is right here, port 8500. So there's nothing happening at the moment, obviously, since we haven't run this yet. Okay. So I already built everything. I was, how they say, don't do anything. Yes?
What is console?
It's like a service discovery. Yeah. I'm not, I haven't really studied this too much, as to be honest, yeah. But it's a way to, discover microservices and actually track them on here. I could go back and forth, and you'll see the microservices will be listed on the website here. So. Let's see. All right, so I didn't rebuild anything because, things tend to break when you do live demos like that. So I'm just going to, since they're already built, I am going to run it. So basically, you'll see here. So it has here, let's see. Okay. You have you have a books directory, the gateway directory, and an inventory directory that were built separately. And what's nice about Gradle is that you can, I guess we're sure with Maven as well, you can run all these together under the main directory here. So that's what we're going to do now. So we'll run it first, and then we'll take a look at code if that's what you guys want to do. So. And the important thing here is make sure you have console running before you start this. As I was testing things earlier today, I had forgotten that the minor detail, and you get all kinds of errors. And of course, the day of the talk, it's you're all get excited about what the heck's going on. So okay, so now we're running here. All right, we can run a couple commands. So here, this is the gateway service, port 8080. I guess I should have gone through that first, but that port right there gives you, these are just 2 books in here, just to keep things simple. So you'll see an ISBN number, the name of a book, and how many items are in stock for that. Same thing with port 8082. You get the same result. It's written in a different language. And, okay. So if you want to look at an inventory for a particular book, then you would actually use the port 8081 and the API/inventory endpoint and with an ID. And to be honest, I think as an improvement, I would actually make things a little more simple. Use like a primary key type of thing, like in a database, to make it a little easier. But this still works. So this gives you 2 because there's 2 items in that. Okay. And the other one here has 3. So they're all working together here. Of course, you can do this, using the curl command as well. Okay. So there is no microprofile or any endpoints or anything like that. So I'd have to see how you could actually do that if that's something you can do. So I have a GitHub for this. I still need to improve this a little bit, but basically all the source code is here. I don't know if it's better. You guys can see this better looking at the source code through the GitHub repository, or would you like to look at it through IntelliJ? What's easier? Let's try this first. So, okay, this is the books microservice. Oh, you also get Docker files. I forgot to mention that. So you have a build.gradle file. Yeah, maybe it's better using IntelliJ. But this is bigger too. So this is all generated. Okay. So, here's the YAML file. Okay. So since this is Groovy, it's using the Spock test framework right there. Okay. Okay. And the resources should be another configuration, application.yaml. Here's where you define your console right here. So yeah, this is where the service discovery happens. And here's where you give it the application name, the server port, and those kinds of things. So it's pretty straightforward. So.
Where's console host defined?
The host?
Yeah, where is that defined? That variable name, console host?
Let's say main resources. So you're referring to the configuration file here?
Yeah, that console host variable. Where is that defined?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, I see what you mean now. I didn't, okay. There's got to be let's see if there's an existing, like environment variable or something like this.
I'm assuming if it's Docker, it would be from.
That's, yeah. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to set that environment variable at all. So yeah, you're right. It probably is Docker. Yeah. So what is it? Set grep. Right. Yeah, I didn't have it. Let me make sure I'm doing this right.
Are all the services running in Docker currently?
Java home. Yeah. So I was doing that right. Okay. Yeah, I think this, it probably has to do with the original command. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing here, and that would have to be in here. The original.
I think what he's saying makes sense is that those are the default is specified there, so not defined in some of the local hosts.
Yeah, that's true. I guess if you wanted to do a custom port, for example, you can probably do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a good question, actually. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, this is just 4 or 5 Groovy files here, application.groovy, pretty straightforward. This is similar to the, the example that you, when you first create that, right? So this is your entry point, of course. So, book.groovy is a Java bean or a bean, okay? Just basically storing, 2 items there, the name and ISBN number. So, there's a controller. Okay, here's where you define the API endpoint right here. Okay, it takes in here a books repository object, all right, and then just assigns it, right, in the constructor. And then you have your /books endpoint right here. And there's a find all method that is defined in the repository, I believe. So let's go back and find it. So this is an interface, right? So here's that. And so the IMPL is the actual implementation. Okay. So yeah, so here's where when we ran this before, it gave us, it put 2 new book objects with the ISBN number and the name of the book. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of Groovy. Okay, Gateway is next. Good, there we go. That was getting annoying for a while. Okay. Let's see if it's anything different here. Okay, yeah, here's the JUnit for Java. Okay, makes sense. Okay. Application.java, similar entry point here. Okay, okay. Of course, this is the POJO for a book, okay? Although it's not a true bean because we're not implementing serializable, but minor details. But it's a similar POJO kind of things right here. So, except here it's actually storing a stock number, a number of items in this that are in stock, and it has that corresponding getters and setters. So, okay, we got a client. Okay, sets the endpoint here. Well, books, all right, and books fetcher. I'm drawing a blank on that name right now. Sorry, but it has an interface here that will get all the books. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, it's an interface, right? So, all right. So the implementation should be around here somewhere. Here's an inventory client. So here's a little bit of communication between the two. I don't remember why this was commented out, but if it's not useful, if not being used, I can actually take it out. So here is where you get the inventory. Okay. Interface there. Here's the endpoint, API inventory, and then the ISBN number. And then the fetcher. Okay, just an interface. So, all right. Let's see, what's the last inventory? So this is the one in Kotlin, I believe. Yep. Okay, it's the same thing. The resource it had it defined the testing unit for Kotlin. Has anybody messed around with Kotlin yet, by the way? Wow, okay, one person. Yeah, a little bit. So, a lot of this, again, was from the example, and I'd like to do a little bit more at some point. So it's .kt is the extension for that. It's a little bit different. The entry point here, it's, for Kotlin, for those who may not know here, you define your main right here in this kind of syntax. Okay, you notice that just similar to Java, you have an array type being passed in for your parameters and stuff, and you use the Micronaut.build, and then you can actually add streaming packages and a main class, application.java class, and then your terminator is the start method. So it's a little bit different. No, I don't know, to be honest, yeah.
Kotlin has static methods. The way it compiles down, that tells the Kotlin compiler to make it as if it were a static method.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we had Barry Bird, who's my co-facilitator at Java Group, gave a Kotlin 101 about a year ago, so it's been a while. So I'd like to learn more, actually. This is Kotlin is using different syntax here for capturing the ISBN number and the number of books in stock. Okay. And there's a controller. Okay. And when you saw before, when you use the inventory and then the ISBN number in the URL, this is where it responded 2 or 3. Okay, so it's kind of like a test. It'd be nice to, as far as an improvement, it'd be nice to wait to get the number of items in stock right there. So, and of course, there's a lambda there, so and just an else, HTTP response not found. So, okay. So what I'd like to do, if we hear from my Helidon talk last night, I actually came up with an application that captured Quentin Tarantino movies, all 9 of his movies there. So I had a lot of fun with that, but I didn't have a chance to go back and play with this. Just had to refamiliarize myself with it. So, but it gives you an idea how to do different microservices in the 3 languages that are being supported. And any questions on the code? Okay. I just want to wrap up here. We got about 12 minutes left or something like that. I wonder why this got so big. Oh, I know why. There we go. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to mention some of the Java users group in the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania areas right there. Of course, I mentioned the ACG and J Java users group. We're at javasig.org. And New York JavaSig, which has been around a lot longer, I think Frank Greco started in 1995. And he's javasig.com. That was not done intentionally. That just wound up that way. But I think it's cool. In Philadelphia, you have Paul Burton and a bunch of other folks that help facilitate the Philly Jug. And then Yakov Fain, who was big in the Java community for a while. He's still around. He's doing his Princeton Java group. He was big on Flex for a number of years. That's what the NJ Flex URL is for Meetup. But he's not as active as he used to be, but he's still around. So, some further reading. These are the 2 technical articles that I had referenced from that. You can see that it's been a while, so it's almost a year for the first one, and the second one came out in early December. InfoQ News. Did I write all 3 of these? I think I did. So you can take a look at those to find out more. And so when Micronaut 1.1 came out, that's the enhanced support for cloud-native apps. And then Spring Boot apps to run as Micronaut apps. I think that was kind of interesting. And then just almost a year ago was when I wrote about the first, the road to Micronaut 1.0 and how we got started. Next month, we have two great names in the Java community visiting us in the ACG&J Java group. We have Reza Rahman on October 8th and Ray Sang on October 22nd. I'm really excited about having two meetings next month instead of one. We normally meet once a month. Since we have an opening now in November, I'm going to talk about Spring Data for MongoDB. Anybody from New Jersey, New York, PA? Anybody? No? Okay. All right. Anyway, some other upcoming events. We have QCon San Francisco is in mid-November. There's a number of Micronaut resources. You can go to the website. There's some guides that are very useful, documentation in the news. So you can look at those on at your leisure. This is how you get a hold of me. It's my website and my email. Please send me email. My Twitter account, if you don't mind, some of my political rants on that, along with Java stuff and cats. And I have this on, I will have this on SlideShare. And of course, my GitHub repository is right there as well. So I'd like to acknowledge, first of all, Object Computing. Graham, who was nice enough to answer a lot of my questions for InfoQ News, and very, very helpful. And Sergio for those two technical articles, very much appreciated. So, and it's time for a beer or two. So thank you. Any questions? Okay, great.